fighting in this forest, they ended up burning machineries that were being used in the forest. I don't think we owe anybody an apology for that. The other thing that protection of this forest is paramount. The last thing that I would like to mention about the community initiatives that have lasting effect on this forest and the community living around is improvement of your livelihood. When 2009 FKF opened gates for visitation or for ecotourism, we equally had a lot of people coming to collect firewood as part of the usage in the homes. They used to have like 3 days a week, but now I think it had been reduced to 1 day a week. That's a measure that there's improvement of livelihood. We have, by that time, I think this forest, 2009, had only the forester, the rangers, and maybe assistant. Currently, we are talking of about 120 FKF staff, more than 10, 12 KFS staff now, maybe going to 15. We have the community women who come and men who come to work here. And we take home almost like a 2 million in a month or thereabout. I think that's a lasting feeling or initiative that we can see that the community have benefited from this forest. The community has also engaged in other activities, like it was mentioned, tomorrow being the D-Day for the WED, we'll have a cleanup exercise in one of the rivers, and all of you are invited. These are, though they are continuous, we can never claim that the rivers are now clean, we don't need to go and clean them. Your participation in that has a lasting action in terms of community involvement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Njui. Lucy, how does Karura Forest engage schools, colleges, universities, and even the wider public communities in environmental learning?
Thank you, Julie. How do we engage with the schools, the colleges, the universities? First of all, my keynote speaker mentioned about Karura Forest being a living laboratory. Especially for the young children, both the CBE and the international curriculum are so much handles. Karura gave them an opportunity to come and be able to feel, see, and as well as sometimes touch while they are running in school. So we normally host quite a lot of school kids from these schools. We go an extra mile of inviting some schools on our outreach program and also giving them the opportunity to come and be able to learn, as well as I've got a feeling of that forest. When we come to the universities as well as the college, we're giving them opportunity to be able to use Karura Forest for their case studies in terms of research, for internship. For the general public, some of the activities we undertake, one of them being the tree growing. The general community is normally involved a lot. We normally get corporates coming in and joining in terms of the tree growing activities. Some of the measures that have been put in the forest, like the plastic ban, when everyone comes into the gate and that's why do I have to leave my water bottle here? And our staff at the gate being able to explain to them that there is a presidential directive that single-use plastic is not allowed in protected area. Yes, but it's my own bottle. Why don't I go to the forest and come and live at it? But when going that extra mile and telling them that once you're done with that water bottle, you're probably going to dispose it in the wrong place. And if you dispose it in a bin, it's probably going to end up not disposed properly, going to the landfills or probably into the waterways. So they are able to learn that they can be able to use other alternatives for their water bottles. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Lucy. Thank you. I think at this point, I would like to open up the floor for a few questions from our audience. Time permitting, I would like us to have maybe 2 questions from those of you who are with us here in the auditorium, and maybe 2 questions from those who are joining us online. If you're joining us once again, if you're joining us virtually and would like to contribute a question, kindly do so using the chat or the raise hand option. And then that way we'll be able to listen to your thoughts or hear your questions. Let me put it to the floor. If I could request, please, when you are asked to be given the mic, if you could state your name for the sake of the rest, and also if you have a particular panelist that you would like to direct the question to, or if it's a general question to any of the panelists. Okay. I think there's one, maybe we have one at the towards the back and then one at the front, yeah? Okay.
Thank you. My name is Hilary, in Karura Forest. And my question, as I was listening to Peter Fundi, there are some of the challenges that the people are doing. One of it is managing the community expectations. There are things that the community are intended to do, and the Karura Forest also do. So, what are the mechanisms or the approaches that you can use to manage these expectations from the communities?
Thank you very much for that question.
Thank you, Hilary, for that question. And my colleagues here would agree with me. It is not just a challenge here, but in most of the protected areas, where you're looking at a resource which is owned by the community and managed by a different entity. So the challenge is not just unique to Karura. The beauty of Karura is that it is a unique ecosystem in that we have a community which is a mix. We have the less privileged and we have a high privileged community within surrounding this ecosystem. And this community has a very unique need. We have the high privileged who are looking at security. They are looking at a space where they can come and walk, a place where they can come and relax. But we have the less privileged who are looking at an ecosystem which should be benefiting them in terms of livelihoods, where they can be able to get an income. And like I said, when we started, the community was small. So it was easy to take up as many coming into the forest, working on a daily basis. But as we move on, as the wildlife population increases, so does the human population. And that increases now the need coming from the community. To balance that, we had to come up with a mechanism where now the community themselves, they guide on how they can be able to share this resource by coming into work on a shift basis, such that you have, we have groups, what we call now the user groups. The Community Forest Association is formed by user groups. Now, these groups, when they're coming into work in the forest, they kind of alternate, and everybody is able to benefit. Again, when it comes to the bursary program, it was easy to have as many kids benefiting, but as the number increases, you have to make sure that now you come up with a mechanism. And the mechanism is to support now the bright kids in that community. And you encourage now everybody to work hard. So it is not that easy, but we are trying to find a balance on how to utilize the resource that we have to benefit the community, but still being plowed back into forest conservation and management.
Maybe I can add something, huh?
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. A resource is something that has one factor: scarcity. Oxygen, when you are breathing here, is not a resource. But when you are admitted in the hospital and you need oxygen, it becomes a resource. The resource scarcity, or the issue of trying to manage the scarce resources is not just about the other communities, even our visitors. Karura is only 1041 hectares. Last year, we cropped almost like 800,000 visitors coming to the forest. Somebody sitting here, an economist, is saying, wow, that's a lot of revenue. When you have such a visitation, it's good. But my former chair, Dr. Winnie, told me that that's a good problem. Having a lot of visitors to the forest, coming to the forest is a good problem. And how do you go about it? Trying to also encourage the forests within Nairobi, City Park, Mishuki, Gong, so that they can come up, so that they can absorb some of these visitors. Somebody does not have to drive from Karen to come to Karura Forest. We made that revenue, but this is a natural forest, and we are almost now reaching the maximum limit that we can be able to. So that's another issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have a question from a lady? Any lady in the audience to ask a question? I see that. We have another question in front here, please.
My name is Simon Mumba, Senior Scout. This question goes to Mr. Edward Munene. What is your vision for Karura in terms of security and conservation? So, outside of our chat.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mumba. Again, allow me to echo some statement by the panelists here. For us to sustainably manage this facility, and I didn't mention that one of the management objectives is concerning forest protection and security. First is to secure the resource. But again, in doing so, as Peter has mentioned, in terms of the numbers of visitation, again, we need to be very careful in terms of this visitation. We have done quite a number of interventions. One, having the forest secured with the physical perimeter electric fence line. But that is not enough. And hence, this other approach of engaging now the community to provide that, what we normally refer to as social fence. The moment all of us have ownership of this resource, addressing the issues of security, which are ever dynamic, they keep changing with time based on the needs. Mind you, our actions and inactions in terms of management have an effect to other spaces out there. Allow me to give an example. Peter did mention that we are receiving, our rivers come through the forest at the exit. Our role, biggest role is in terms of trying to clean that river ecosystem. But the communities downstream, for example, if we don't have interventions up here, the effect will be felt down there. And if you are not careful, we can have what we call internal civil wars because of this resource. So again, it all depends on what perspective you are approaching in terms of the security of this facility. So our interest for Karura is just to make sure that the space is secure for all our visitors coming here, especially for the recreation activities, and again, even for the staff that are working here, and ultimately for our fauna. Remember, some of them are endangered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This question is for you again, Mr. Munene, from a member of our online audience. My question specifically goes to Mr. Munene, with the knowledge that the Forest Conservation and Management Act amendments have already been signed and in place, drawing attention to section 56.2, DA, easement for roads and other public installations. What will you, as the facility ecotour manager, do to ensure that such a clause will not hurt the already successful Karura forest regeneration, bearing in mind the previous trials for such installations?
Thank you, Julie, for that question. The biggest mandate that we have as Kenya Forest Service is to manage, protect, and conserve these forests, especially the public gazetted forest. All this is done within the confines of the existing laws and regulations. The beauty with our current constitution is that we allow for public participation. In the event that we have developments that are coming on board for the sake of the public, again, the platform is there for us, members of the community or the public, to register our concerns or views into that project. Again, a whole avenue for engagement. So I believe at the point that a decision is made, especially for infrastructural projects, we have a latitude for engagement, and that's what now the Constitution envisages going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that response. I think that was the only question we had from our online audience. So we do have scope for a few more questions from our audience here in the hall. I think we can go to that end.
My name is John Cheney, working with Friends of Karura Forest as a clerk and community officer. My question is based on education, environment education, but not limited to basic only. And I got it from the theme that calls about global call for climate action. You know, in Karura, we see environmental education is happening. And we do see students, communities, and institutions coming to get this awareness, but we are not yet 100%. My question is, on this note, for us to be termed as successful, Kenyan forests must emulate this model, which extends to Africa and even globally as well. What are our plans to avenues to extend environmental awareness externally? That means to the rest of Kenyans, Africa, and globally. And on that case, do we have resources in this regard?
I think we will go to Lucy for that. And then if any of the other panelists would like to jump in, you're welcome to do so.
Thank you, Chege, for that question. We are trying our best. We are trying to set the base. But I have mentioned, your feeling is that probably we have not been able to tackle the external community. One thing that is happening in the globe right now is the issue of technology. And I believe I and the team at KFIT, we are looking on enhancing our technology so that we can be able to reach out to the larger community as much as possible. Do we have the capacity? Yes, I feel we have the capacity. Do we have the finances to be able to do it? All the other stakeholders are here with us. So we'll continue talking to them, reaching out to them, and as well as probably looking into doing the crowdfunding so that we can be able to develop as many resources as possible that we can be able to share with the general audience, and probably globally we can be able to share what we are doing here, and they can be able to emulate it, and we can also be able to learn from other places, especially in the West, where environmental education on nature running has really been